instead of buying a $20 brush, they'll buy a pack of 5 brushes for $12. Like, oh, that's better. Yeah.
And we're back on the Ohio Painting Company podcast, answering questions, telling stories from the painting industry, a whole bunch of stuff you didn't know you wanted to know about painting. I'm your host, Brett, joined today by the founders of OPC, Kevin Silliman and Nick Goebel. Good to have you back, fellas. How are you?
Hello.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Together.
So, yeah, say what?
We're back together.
Oh, I know. Yeah, it was 2 weeks ago. It was just Kev. Last week, just Nick. Talked about.
We just need a little separation.
Yeah, I understand.
A little
But
divorce.
we,
alone time.
Kevin, you and I agreed that, this stuff can't stop for a podcast. You guys got to keep it going.
Way it goes, right?
Yeah, that's right. So today I wanted to discuss, first off, we did have a plan that if my wife and I got our home inspection results back, that we would make the episode about that and about every single thing we have to do in the next 2 weeks before we're literally, trailer full out of the driveway. And it came back spotless and we were very impressed. So we
Nothing about the glitter in the ceiling?
Nothing about the glitter, nothing about the electrical hooked up to the water heater, nothing about the,
Paint stain in the backyard.
they didn't say anything about that. The dog matter that's from the bottom steps all the way out to the back creek. The
How
horrific
removed in family are you from the guy who inspected your house?
I don't know, but he showed up and I was
we
here.
couldn't get married, but like
the guy showed up and I was here and I was packing 2 dogs and I forgot the cat the first time I left, so she was like sleeping on the couch when I came back to check on something, so I grabbed her and threw her in the truck too, because they had a meeting with the buyers afterward and I was like, I doubt they want any animals in there, so I just packed them all up. But the guy that did the inspection, he said he did it last time, before we bought it. So it would have been the previous owner prior to us. He did the inspection there as well. And obviously it passed and it passed again. So we're excited. We're moving along. Yeah. So house is sold. We're waiting for the check and we're waiting for the U-Haul, like I told you off air, Kevin. So it's all in motion and we're excited.
Right on.
Yeah,
so
congratulations. Yeah.
Thank you.
So when are you moving out then?
We got to be out on the 24th, and depending on when this drops, that could be, in a couple of days or in a week. So May 24th, we got to be out of here.
Like, wow. Checks in the mail.
Yeah, right. Yeah. I want that thing handed right to me. I always wanted like the briefcase with the handcuffs on it, so you had to walk into the bank, like,
right.
so nobody would steal it from you. But since the inspection came back completely clean, we're going to talk about some things that DIYers get way wrong. And we were kind of discussing this very briefly off air prior to hitting the record button. But, me being a DIYer, my family, it kind of seems that we never really hire professionals and it can come back to bite you. And with you guys being the experts that you are in this industry, what do you guys notice when you go into a house to a typical DIYer who finally made the call to you guys? What is the number one thing people get wrong?
I would say project planning is probably a good place to stop. If we need to talk about number one, you're not going to hire us, you're going to save a boatload of money. You're also going to take on a lot of headaches. And the common theme of painting and design, you hear it on HGTV, is the cheapest upgrade you can do to your home is paint. So everybody hangs on to that word cheap. So when you're at the store, you're looking for the best paint to get the best job. So you might try to get away with it in one coat. Not going to shame anybody for that. We always do 2 coats, but there are some products and colors you can do that. But people, they'll spend $70, $80 a gallon on a gallon of paint. Then when it comes to like,
how much do you spend on snacks when you're recording podcasts? What are you eating?
You're gonna spew into this. So anyhow, they'll put the money in the paint, and then when it comes to supplies, they don't want to wash brushes, so they'll buy, instead of buying a $20 brush, they'll buy a pack of 5 brushes for $12. Like, oh, that's better. Yeah. Roller covers, they'll buy a 6 pack of roller covers in the contractor series because contractors use it because it says contractor series. That
Oh,
means
yeah,
that
yeah.
we can use it. Well, those things will flatten out in no time. They won't hold any paint. They won't pick it up. We'll get on to paint application later, but a good roller cover should release paint where there's no paint or wet paint on the wall. So basically, like the wall will drink it like a sponge.
Mm.
And then when you get to an area that has too much paint, it'll actually drink the paint back up. The roller will, so you can apply it to other areas. So, everybody gets
If it's a
fixated.
good roller,
If
yeah.
it's a good roller. So you get fixated on, and again, you can buy everything under the sun. I understand our AP expenses, the associated product expenses are to us ridiculous, but we do a great job covering things and our guys do a great job. And so we work on that efficiency. It's going to be a honing process, but we know how those expenses can climb. However, if you're disappointed in your paint job, it goes beyond the paint and into applicators, covering the floors properly. Loose plastic will bunch up and you'll find yourself reshifting these drop cloths or the plastic around on the floor, try to keep it up against the wall. And every time you step on it, it comes away from the wall and feels like a losing battle. So what do you end up doing? You forget about it. You stop pushing it up against the wall, and then
Forget about it.
then you come back and there's splatter on the ground. So, good associated products, good brushes, rollers. Don't skimp on that. Clean them up. If they're good quality, you can clean them up. Look on YouTube's and they'll give you some good insight into how cleaning rollers and brushes and things like that.
Or wrap them in paper, foil, throw them in the closet or the garage. And when you need them again, go get them.
Wow.
Right.
You guys really were speaking my language back there about buying the pack of rollers, at the biggest discounted price, and it does say contractor on it, so you're like, oh man, I'm just like the big guys doing the job.
And that's part of the gimmick, and it's how they sell more volume and make you feel like you're amply supplied. But they flatten out, and here's the worst part: you've got walls that may be in awful shape. They might be in great shape. Let's say they're in great shape. You're using a bad roller, and you're putting it on too heavy in areas you can't move it around properly. But I mean, to me, what a lot of that can be fixed by sanding it and redoing it. What's the worst is this going to leave wool and fuzz and a bunch of junk in your paint. Usually, right when you start painting, and a lot of people like to start in the corner. Sometimes even in the middle of the wall, but it just continues to shed. That's what we call it. It sheds. The glue loses its grip on the wool or the fibers, and it leaves hairs in your walls. And when you're standing 12 foot back, you're not going to see it, but your couch is against the wall, your bed's against the wall, table's against the wall. When you're actually looking, you're going to see your walls are going to look fuzzy and it looks like you got a bunch of junk in it. And so that's a real buzzkill too.
It's all about good quality products.
Yep, exactly. I
Is that
love
backwards?
that.
Probably was.
Nope. Looks perfect
right.
to me. And
Okay,
we're trying to shift into high gear of getting paint line on the podcast. So stay tuned for that. We'll do what we can and see where it goes. So, when a person, i.e., me, we look at all these things on the internet and magazines, and we're like, oh, we could definitely do that. It seems so easy to just get a couple gallons of paint and start putting this paint on the wall. But you're not taking into consideration all of the lighting and the editing and all of the malarkey that goes into that picture before it's slapped on a page or put on the internet. So when people are, ticking off the list of things they have to do for their project, it seems and it feels like you got everything right. And then once you're done, it just doesn't look the way you wanted it to. And I think that's like the big demotivator right there. You're like, why does this look so terrible? What did I do wrong? So, I mean, is there a point where somebody did do something wrong where it's not looking like that picture in the magazine or what?
Well, a big thing is that okay, hiring a professional painter, right? Just like you, or just like any homeowner that's doing the job, they know every spot that they missed. They know every imperfection because they've handled that wall or that trim, every square inch of it, right? So every painter that comes in your house knows where those are at and he gets to it, right? And he takes care of it. There are so many to the homeowner that it's overwhelming. And all they can think of is this crappy job that I've done. So there's no satisfaction in what's supposed to be, a very inexpensive, cheap, upgrade that should be very gratifying, And whenever you have a painter come in and they take care of all of those things, and then, they might miss a few so that, you do a walkthrough and you take care of it. But you do have that gratification, It's like, what do you really want to buy? I mean, do you want to buy if you have a nice red Mercedes that needs to be polished, do you want to use yucky polish, or do you want to use the good stuff, and you can do it. You can polish a car yourself, but think of how nice it would have been to just go have somebody polish that for you and bring it back and what it's going to look like. But every time you see one of those swirls that you didn't get out, it's going to be like, dang, blame it, because but you bring it from a guy. Oh, well, I'm going a little too much detail, but the thing is that they hate it so much because you see all those imperfections,
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
I mean,
I'm with you.
You know where they're at. So
yeah,
I didn't mean anything about your beautiful. That thing looks amazing.
Thank you. Okay, so
it really does.
Step back. Let me tell you the story. I found a 1996 Mercedes SL convertible, and I brought it home, and it was just the dullest, worst looking paint. And you guys don't do automotive paint, and there's a good reason for that, Kevin, which you didn't expand on. But I was like, this paint is completely shot. I'm gonna have to spend $3,800 to get a new paint job put on it. And is it worth it? This car is not worth that amount of money in the first place. Why would I do it? So I went to the store. I bought this compound.
Riem polishing compound.
It's from McGuire's, but it is a high cut compound, and it brought that paint back to life all over the place.
Unreal.
You use a lamb's wool buffer.
I did use a buffer, and it was something pretty similar to that. It was a very special pad bonnet that we put on the electric buffer that I have, and I mean, it just brought it back to life. It's unbelievable. It's like a mirror. And I couldn't believe it. And then we went quickly with the just to let all the listeners know, welcome to the Ohio Car Painting Company podcast. But it was good. And honestly, Kevin, going back to what you said, I'm the kind of guy that would not want somebody else to do it. I love, absolutely love. And I love being up underneath of it while it was on jack stands, changing the fuel pump last weekend. I think that was great, despite it shooting gasoline out of the bottom of it when we fired it up and backed it out of the garage. But
it did fire up.
It did fire up. We got it. The true mileage on that thing showed up. Radio doesn't work, but whatever. So we are way off topic, but to me, and I'm sure a lot of people are like this as well, doing it yourself is, kind of that I did that right there.
Yeah.
People are looking at that, but there are people on the back end that are like, this looks terrible and I hate it. And I want it to look like this picture, just, but it doesn't. So I think that was one of the
perfections too. You're like like before this started, before you hit go, I saw you get up out of your chair and grab whatever was on the floor there,
right.
Shoot the dead out of the way, whatever. But yeah, normally you've got a lot more attire on the back in the background showing, but, on the walls anyway.
Yeah. Well, we're in the process of moving, so I'm taking stuff down. The TV stand that we have right here on the floor, we're moving into a house that will not support a flat screen hanging on the wall because it was built, I think, in the 1400s. So the stuff behind the wall probably isn't ready for a TV to be hung on it. So we just got random things. It's costing a lot more than we thought to move out of this place.
Yeah,
I guess that's part of it.
It's a great place you're going to, so you can't beat it.
Yeah.
Is there a fishing hole anywhere near it?
I really see that's not part of my thing. I'm looking for roads that cops don't travel down, so I can take that red Mercedes with no license plate, insurance, or title down. And just take it to the end. So anyway, the whole thing with buying products, Nick, you were talking about how people they get the right paint, but they buy the wrong applicators. So that was kind of the next part of the show. I bought the best paint in the market. And once I'm done, I'm not impressed. Where do you go from there, right? Do you have to start over? Do you have to just do touch ups? There's paint on the ceiling. What do I do? Just go with that and we'll see.
There's paint on the ceiling.
Oh, yeah.
Now it's on the trim.
Yeah.
It's up in the carpet.
How do I get paint on the ceiling? Well, you put paint on the ceiling.
Nobody else did.
Yeah.
Yeah, so the applicators is in the project planning is a good start. If you plan, you get the right stuff, at least you'll have everything there. You don't have to stop in the middle of the wall, let things dry, because at that point, unless you're working with the dead flat paint, you're going to have to start all over on that wall. Next simple things, caulk and patch properly before painting, and then when you sand the patches, on a wall, even with the lightest texture, anytime that you patch, you're going to have like a circle of smooth patching on top of texture all around it. And if you just simply sand it, you might see a faint outline or a transition. Like, so those, sometimes sometimes we'll add, like when we prime it, we'll add a little bit of extra paint stipple on there so they blend more. We're always very intentional about sanding the perimeter of those patches so they transition into the wall rather than just like a hard stop of patching. So people overpatch. You'll have a nail hole that's the size of like a little tiny brad nail. They just hung a picture on it, nothing big, and they'll come back and they'll swipe over
6-inch mud blade.
They'll swipe over with a 6-inch mud blade. Yeah, and all they needed was leave patching in that little hole. Or some nails, you pop them in, like when you hammer them in, all the drywall material around that nail kind of swells outwards
On a nail pop.
on a nail, and not even a nail pop,
I'm
like
sorry, you
just
went somewhere else.
just a nail in the wall.
Got you.
And how
yeah.
the drywall kind of puffs up around it because you're pushing on it, the nail's pushing on the
Yeah.
material. So like when you pull the nail, if you close your eyes and run your hand over the wall, you can still it's not just a hole there. There's visibly a bump there. So some people will just come back and they'll spackle over top of that bump when really you just take any good putty knife has a metal hammer bottom to it. And that's not for driving nails into trim. It's not for fixing things on your house. Like that is there so you can kind of push things into the wall. You take that hard spot on the nail and you kind of reset whatever those little dimples or blemishes might be. Now you patch it. Now your patching is like, a 1/4 inch and it sands well in the wall versus like, putting 6 inches of mud on it. Then the other one, and Kevin's going to elaborate on more here. So I'll just finish like the thought process, just those details and trying to do those right and sanding them right. But then on the other side of patching, even if you buy something called pre-prime patching, it is better than compound as far as flashing. And so what I'm going to describe is you've painted, you've primed, you've finished the wall, and the wall looks great when you're looking at it dead on, and so all of a sudden the sun hits at an angle, or you're looking at it from the side, and literally you have spots in the middle of the wall where you mudded that look dead. Everything else might have a nice satin sheen to it, and that is just dead flat. That patching, the first thing it likes to do is it drinks the silica and it drinks that shine out of the paint. So on the other side of patching properly and sanding properly and getting it to blend in with its surrounding as well as you can before paint, we always come back and we what we call it triple prime. We put one coat of primer and 2 coats of paint on those primer areas. The primer is going to hold that flashing back, and then the paint's going to add the sheen on top of it. So even though it's a different, the primer will be white, you can prime it with your new color that has the sheen in it. So say it's just, a green, you prime it with your green finish, just on those areas. And then you go back and you start from corner to corner and you apply your first coat. And so now your first coat is going over top of anywhere that you have patching. It's going over top of a nicely sanded patch that's been primed and also has 2 coats of paint with a sheen to it. And if you follow that process, you'll have a nice even shine all the way down your wall. If you don't put that effort in, then yeah, you're going to get those dead flat areas. So,
Man,
That was
guys,
a lot, huh?
that was.
well, no, that's all right because you
No,
said
Stop talking.
Oh no. But that's really the way it is. I mean, you try to convey that to the new guy, and it's like, I'm not doing that, But then whenever he has to paint that wall 3 more times, then he learns. Yeah.
right.
But yeah, but I mean, it really is, it's a process, but you know, you need to do those things or else, you know, when you walk in there or somebody walks in your house, you know, they look at that and they're like, um, they're telling, you know, they painted their house and, you know, they're all proud of it or whatever. And I mean, they might be proud of it, but I mean, anybody, I don't know, maybe it's just that we're painters. But you know, I see those spots everywhere, you know, it's like,
You
wow, I
notice.
mean, one more coat would have been, you know, I mean, just a little touch up would have been great, but you
Uh-huh.
know, anyway, it is what it is.
I was going to say, you guys are saying a lot of stuff that we've done all over this house. And now that we're moving out, we are careless with how we repair things. Say the holes in the wall from where the TV was once hanging downstairs. We got those mesh patches
Yeah.
and like the stick patches. What are they?
Oh,
$4?
that's good.
Yeah.
We
Okay.
use
Good.
we
Great.
love them.
Okay. So we did that. We covered the bigger holes, and then there was a nail pop that was in the wall too. But I didn't use one of those 6-inch whatever those things are, mud
Mud
scraper,
blades, yeah.
mud blade. Or so we filled those in. But the mesh thing, I was wondering about those patches. You know, they were dirt cheap, but
Oh,
it did the job.
you should have
Uh,
bought as many as you could. We'd have bought them off of you. Dirt cheap.
Okay.
Anyway.
Right. Yeah. I probably would have doubled the price for you.
Oh, yeah, on those mesh things though, again, you talk about texture, you got like that mesh pad might be 6 by 6 inches or 4 by 4
Yeah, you
inches.
got-
Right.
You're gonna have to float that mud out probably about 9 inches on all sides. To
Brett's
get
like, no, I didn't. I put
Yeah,
one
I
patch
didn't.
on
Oh,
it.
well, you said
I
it
didn't do that.
curiously, yeah, but anyhow, for the next
That looks
people,
awesome.
the people you're selling the house to, share this video with them so they can figure out
There
I
you
will.
go.
This
You'll
was
have
fix all the
recorded.
things that you left.
This episode was recorded in your new house.
Yeah.
The thing about that is I think they're going to have a lot more holes in the wall. They have 8 kids. That's a lot of action going on. But I mean, holes in the wall, crayons, whatever. I mean, that's got to be a pretty constant thing for them.
Yeah.
That's one
so
less than yours, mine, and Nick's kids.
put together.
Well, -1, I guess. Yeah.
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 So
Yeah.
real
Yeah.
quick, I want to know if I did something right before we wrap up. With that
Okay.
mesh, we just covered the hole. We didn't put anything in the hole. Were you supposed to put
No.
something in the hole?
Nope.
Oh, good. Look at
Yeah,
that.
if you work that mud in, that mud's gonna push through that mesh, and as long as it's thick enough, it'll have a backside and a front side, and then and that should give it stability to come back over top of it and put another patch over it. But that's sufficient. You'll never be able to hang a nail from that hole,
Mhm.
But
Right.
They won't know until they try.
There's a big map hanging over top of it right now down there. I think that was
Nice.
mainly for the inspector, so he wouldn't see it. Maybe that's why we passed. But with
Could be.
I didn't do 8 or 9 inches on either side on all sides of that square. I mean, I just did the square. So is that mesh going
that's
to be pretty noticeable? Or I mean, we sanded it quite a bit.
Yeah.
it just shows that you made an effort.
That's right. All right. Hey, as long as you guys are telling me that the effort was made in the right spots and that everything is probably going to be all right, I'll take it. Okay. So,
Be good to go.
yeah. So, number one thing DIYers get wrong. That's a wrap, fellas. We appreciate the time as always. And, I would say that throughout the course of this series that we're putting together, we do have plans to get some other folks on the horn as well and speak with them. Maybe a little travel episode. We would
Mr.
love to have
Paintline.
Paintline on. Mr. Paintline, we're looking for your number, my friend, and I'm sure it's on the other side of that card. So hopefully we'll get him on. Also want to
We
get
should get
Sherwin on.
And a professional fisherman. That's what we should do.
I think we could go all different kinds of places. Why not?
Who
Spice
cares
it
about
up.
paint, right?
Mhm.
Well, actually, you have to fish if you paint. You need relief, right?
Yeah. Well, hey, I'll take it from you. You're the expert. Kevin Silliman and Nick Goebel on the Ohio Painting Company podcast. All sorts of things you didn't know you wanted to know about painting right here on the show. So, guys, thank you so much, and we'll talk next week.
All right. See you, buddy.